And we're back as we promised, and we're delighted to have Allison here with us again. You know, Allison was with us back last month, I think.
Yep.
It really was. Allison is the director of sales for the Georgia Association of Broadcasters, and then she brought with her good-looking Andrew Heath. Thank you. Finally, we get some good-looking guys in here.
Thanks for having me.
Well, I'm glad you could come. Really and truly, though, this drive alert and arrive alive makes all the sense in the world. So talk to us about the GOT and how they are connected with this.
Yeah, that is a little bit of a tongue twister, Drive Alert, Arrive Alive, but that is the Georgia DOT's campaign that we launched about 2 years ago and have been trying to continue to push this message of distracted driving and the associated rise in fatalities that we've seen on Georgia roadways. We had a sort of a good news story from about 2007 until about 2 years ago in 2015, where we saw a very dramatic decrease in the number of fatalities happening on our roadways. But as of 2 years ago, we saw a spike, a very dramatic spike in the number of fatalities. Yeah, and when we look at the crash reports and what's going on out there in the roadways, we're seeing a tremendous amount of distracted driving leading to bad wrecks and fatalities.
Well, Andrew, I see people in the morning when I'm coming to work, and Allison, it amazes me what they're doing. Some are putting on makeup, some's putting sweetener or something in their coffee, and they're still driving. I think they're driving with their knees or something. But it's amazing. And some are still on the phone. And I'm thinking, you can take your eyes away from the road for just, 3 seconds?
Right.
And have an accident.
That's right. And when you combine that with the speeds that folks are traveling out there, a lot of people don't realize just in those 3 seconds how much distance you actually travel. And when you take your eyes away from the road, you could go hundreds of feet without paying attention to where you're going.
Absolutely.
And, you know, when we look at this campaign, that's why we talk about distraction, not just from a texting and driving, even though that's a main culprit for that distraction, but anything that's really distracting you from driving your vehicle and taking your eyes off the road.
Absolutely. And another thing, pedestrian deaths are also surging.
That's correct. We supplemented this Drive Alert, Arrive Alive campaign with a secondary campaign called See and Be Seen. To bring attention to the rise in pedestrian fatalities we've seen across the state as well, in and around Metro Atlanta, but also in areas like Rome and throughout the state, really. And that's a campaign really to try to push this notion of shared responsibility, that it's the responsibility of the driver to be on the lookout for pedestrians when they're out there. It's also the responsibility of the pedestrian to cross at the appropriate location and to cross at the appropriate time.
Walk on the right side of the road instead of... Oh, this scares me to death because coming on, we've got a lady that walks on this side toward facing you and coming up over a hill. And I'm thinking, oh, sweetheart, you're going to get hit one of these days because they fly over the hill.
Right.
And it's just so unsafe for her. And it really bothers me. The people that have those little electric chairs that they down Maple Road, they go down in the middle of the road. And this is another thing that I think we need to tighten up on. Is those people, I know they've got to have a way to go and they've got to have a road to travel because most of the places don't have sidewalks down in that area. But you got to watch. You can't be in the middle of the road.
That's right. And I think that's a key component of why having those appropriate accommodations is such a crucial thing.
It is.
To look at that accessibility for those types of users that are out there so that they can be out of the road and have a safe experience when they're trying to get from point A to point B.
You say that 50% of fatalities result from a single vehicle crash?
That's correct. So that to us is a shocking number that 50% of the fatalities were the result of a crash involving only one vehicle.
One vehicle.
So that was somebody, for some reason, leaving their lane of travel and hitting a fixed object of some kind, leaving their lane. But essentially, for some reason... That sounds to
me like distraction.
That's right. That's why we like to highlight that point, that 50% are just those single vehicles, which really kind of points the finger at those folks weren't paying attention at the time that they left their lane of travel and hit something.
And, a lot of times when they injure themselves, it can be for life. I mean, or they can kill themselves. But
that's part of the untold story as well, that we're not highlighting that particularly with this campaign, but the associated serious injuries. In addition to seeing the uptick in fatalities, we've seen a dramatic uptick as well in serious injuries, which has that ongoing cost from a medical expense, and just, having to deal with that potentially for the rest of somebody's life is a tremendous challenge.
What about motorcycles? We've had an increase in people buying motorcycles in the last 10 years. I mean, they are coming out of the woodwork. And are they doing better as far as not having as many accidents?
I've actually brought some of the data along with me just to see. We did see a sharp rise in the number of motorcycle fatalities between 2015 and 2016. So far this year in 2017, we're a little under that, so that's a good news story. But that does continue to be a challenge area from motorcycle fatalities. We try to push messaging about awareness, that motorcycles can be anywhere, and you always have to be aware of those folks. But yeah, that is part of the challenge as well.
Well, we've been told to wear a seatbelt for how many years now? It's been a law, and people are still going around without wearing their seatbelts.
That's correct. And when you look at this is one of the most shocking numbers to me, is when you look at the crash reports for those folks that have died on our roadways, 60% of those people were not wearing a seatbelt at the time of their death, at the time of the fatality crash. That, to us, is an absolutely shocking number, which something as simple as wearing a seatbelt, something that we've been pushing for years, we're still seeing individuals out there that are not putting their seatbelts on. And it's truly something that, it's a very simple thing, buckling up your seatbelt, and it really can save your life.
Well, we have a program our law enforcement does here that either click it or ticket. And this works. People are buckling up, and I think that's maybe it gives you an incentive to do it.
That's right.
It says either click it or ticket. In the all collisions, 80% of drivers wore a seatbelt while in fatality crashes. Listen to this, just 43%. So that's a good number, stat. In the event of crash, seatbelts saves lives. Seatbelts use among fatality victims is down. That's not good.
That's right. Yeah. Even though we've been pushing that message of wearing the seatbelt, we're seeing the data trend the wrong direction. And that the number of people not wearing the seatbelt that are involved in these fatality crashes is moving in the wrong way. And that's part of this campaign, is to bring that awareness, back, to the forefront, to say, hey, this is a very simple thing. Put your seatbelt on.
Well, we know that the biggest distraction are our phones, our cell phones, and mobile devices and things like that. What about people who are taking medication and maybe they might be a little drowsy? And shouldn't they talk with their doctors about the medications they're taking before they get under the steering wheel?
Absolutely. Anything that, if it leads to drowsy driving, distracted driving, if you have to make a long trip,
or it slows your reaction down,
or slows your reaction down, yeah. Plan. What we like to say is plan your trip ahead of time, knowing where it is you're coming from and where you're going to, how long you're going to be on the road. Just for your own personal planning, you've got to take that step, to really make it as safe as you possibly can, and put the phone down. Put it in the glove compartment and don't answer it. Let your friends or your family know that I'm going to be on the road for the next 2 hours or whatever it might be. I'll give you a call when I get there, but I'm not accessible for the next 2 hours because I'm going to be driving to where I need to go.
Oh, I never ever answer the phone.
That's good to hear.
No, I pull off, and I'll, if I'm expecting somebody to call as far as their scheduling is concerned, I always pull off the road and then call them back. It's safer. It works. Last year, let me tell y'all a little boo-hoo story. I was having some work done on my air conditioner. It had just got sick, and it wasn't acting right. And I took it to the garage, and they fixed it, and they were backing it out of the thing where they had it, and ran in or backed into a car and just totaled my back end. Well, they had it fixed, of course. They fixed it and took it up to Buster's, and Buster just does a great job. Anyway, I I'm driving this car 2 weeks, sitting down here at 2nd Avenue and Martha Berry, and this taxi comes in and creams me in the back again.
Oh, wow.
2 weeks I got to drive my car without it being having. So really, that she said her foot slipped off the brake, but to me, that's not paying attention.
Right.
It's not. And you think that you know where you are, you might not.
That's right.
There might be an object in your way that you don't see. So really, that's my little sob story.
That's a great example of just the types of things we're seeing is it we're seeing increased fatalities, but also just increases in sort of the fender bender type accidents just because of that distraction. When you're taking your eyes off the road, you're not looking at where you're going, and you're not seeing what might be in front of you, and it leads to bad results.
We're going to take a little break. Andrew Heath is here with us with a GOT. And, of course, Allison, she is with a GAB, and that's the Georgia Association of Broadcasters, and one of our good friends. And we'll be back in just a minute. Don't you dare move a muscle. You might miss something.
I'm Wesley Henderson, a member of the Henderson family.